Hello, and thank you all for joining us here with Outdoor Asylum. I'm Brad Allen, here as always with our producer, Jake Seipert. Jake, how's it going?
Going good. How are you, Brad?
Yeah, it's going good.
Good to see you today.
Well, thank you. I
You
appreciate
look
that.
a little younger, like a week younger.
Why is that? Is it the glasses?
Might be the weather. I'm just in a better mood. It's cooled down.
Well, I'm glad that I'm looking a little more attractive to you today.
Yeah,
I had to put the glasses on. I feel it's funny you say that I look younger because I feel older because I can't read anything. Now my eyes are just going down.
Could be that hat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's that hat. Check out those elite hats.
Yeah, we're fixing to have some like this style hopefully here pretty soon. Of course, I've been hearing that for a while. It's tough. They can't get hats now. You know, everything China, the shipping problems and everything they're having in China, it's getting hard to get things just as simple as hats now. So it's been a little bit of a lengthy deal. But stay tuned. Check out the website. We're going to have some new hats, some new apparel coming out pretty soon. So, you know, and also hit that like and subscribe button and recommend us to your friends or recommend us to your enemies, recommend us to somebody. We really appreciate you guys joining us. And before I get in, I'm really excited about this podcast and because I'm excited to introduce you to a special guest that I've got with me. But before I introduce my guest, I want to tell you, Jake, let me tell you a story. It's going to be story time with Brad to start out here.
Yeah.
This is
I like stories.
This is something that happened. Gosh, I don't know how long it's been ago. Probably over a couple years ago. We were building this shop, the Elite Duck Call shop, where we were going to start making all of our products, and I had to go drive and pick up some materials to build this building, and on a personal note, and I don't like talking about stuff getting too personal with things like this. I'd rather tell something personal regarding someone else than tell it on myself. But the truth is, man, it was a time where I was going through a pretty rough patch myself, and I was battling a lot of different things. I had it's kind of one of those things I really didn't know what the future was going to hold. I was dealing with a lot of self-doubt, plus some other personal issues that I was going through that I won't get into. And I'm driving. I've got to make a long drive from here over to the Mountain View area to pick up some materials. And, that's probably, gosh, I don't know. We're looking at an hour and a half drive at least, hour and 45 minutes where I was going. And I remember the day very well. Because I was driving when I was going to pick this up. It's one thing I had so much on my mind that, usually I'm listening to music or I'm listening to another podcast. I'm listening to something on YouTube, whatever, something to pass the time. But on this particular day, I had so much on my mind. I did not have the radio. I didn't have anything on. And I'm just thinking about it. I'm it's encompassing everything.
Silent
that's
drive.
on my mind. Yeah, silent drive. And I even caught myself sometimes in prayer. I had so much on me that I'd find myself praying and driving. You ever do that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't close my eyes when I'm doing that.
Yeah, I try to keep the eyes open. Well, the horns will bring you back to the right a little bit when you hear them.
Rumble strip.
Yeah, rumble strip or
there.
something, yeah. But anyway, man, I find myself in prayer as I am driving. I mean, I'm sitting here sometimes driving and talking to God like He's sitting in the seat next to me.
Yeah,
That's how much life was kind of weighing on me at the time. So I get to have that long drive there. I get where I'm going to pick up this material. Now, what I'm picking up is what you see behind me here. This wood. We really wanted a rustic look with a lot of the shop that we were building. So I had these boards we put some black paper behind it, and I'm buying just big pine boards, and we're putting this up going for the rustic look. Now the problem is this wood that I'm getting, it's a lot of material, and it's very wet. This wood at the time was not dried out, and we knew that going in. And I was going to put it up, let it shrink, let it gap up, and just give it that outdoor feel. But man, it is so much weight. I did not have a trailer myself that would carry it. I had to borrow a trailer from my father's huge trailer that would would haul something this size. And even then, man, when this guy's stacking this wood on here, and we're talking about tons of material, I'm like, my gosh, I don't know if this trailer is going to be able to hold it. And then the other thing is, I drive a big Toyota Tundra. I'm thinking, man, do I even have enough truck in these hills to get up and down these hills? And more importantly, do I have enough brake if I get going down a little bit too fast? So it was a little bit of a harrowing thing. So, but this is my last load. I've gotten a couple different loads of this stuff. This is the last one, and I've got to pick this up, and I've got to get back. So get the trailer loaded up, and I am on my way home, and I'm back in the same situation, thinking about everything that's been on my mind. And like the worst thing happens, I hear the big boom. I blow a tire on the trailer. It goes, it's like a gunshot going off. I look in the rearview mirror just in time to see the tire flying off, the rubber flying off and hitting the tail light on one side and ripping it off. But the one good thing was that where it hit me, I looked up like I got to get this thing off the road. But luckily, there's a driveway, a big gravel driveway right in front of me where there are several chicken houses that are right there together. And it's a big area, graveled area where some big trucks can pull in, plenty of room. And it was just right there. Couldn't have been any more perfect. I'm just, boom. So I got to get off the road. So I pull off. And now, I'm kind of out in the country. I'm far from home, kind of in the middle of nowhere, and I don't want to overplay it. I mean, obviously I'm on a highway. It's not like I'm on a back dirt road somewhere, but I'm feeling pretty isolated because I'm a pretty good distance away from someone that's going to help me in this. So I come to a stop, and I'm like, oh my gosh, borrowed trailer. I hope there's a spare. What am I going to do? I'm sitting here, how am I going to deal with this? And then I look up, and this truck pulls up next to me. And I look at the man inside. The man inside pulls up next to me, and he is just grinning from ear to ear, which is either a really good sign.
That's kind of scary.
Yeah, it's either a really good sign
up around Mountain View for sure.
Exactly, a really bad sign. There have been a lot of scary movies that have started just like this, So I see this, and I'm like, oh, my goodness. I'm a little nervous. And so roll down the window, and the first thing out of this man's mouth, he looks at me, he grins, he said, man, you're the second one today that is broken down right here. And I'm thinking, damn, what happened to the first guy? That's kind of my first thought. And so,
where's his truck?
Yeah, exactly. I don't see anybody. So I was like, really? And he said, you got a spare, you good to go? So I don't know. I get out and I look, like I said, just borrowed this trailer. Sure enough, I don't have a spare. I've got all this weight on this trailer. How are we going to jack this thing up? The only jack that I've got is with the factory jack that comes in my truck, and we've got so much weight. It's like I don't, like this.
Those are kind of rinky dinky.
Yeah, rinky dink. I don't think this is going to cut it for this load that I've got on here. And then this gentleman says, well, he said, man, I may have a jack. He said, I think I got something back in my truck. So he gets out of his truck, and when he gets out, I see that this gentleman is missing his right arm. Something has happened. He's missing his right arm. Plus, I can tell from the way that he's walking that he's got some impairment to his leg as well. You can tell from the gait that he's had an injury here. But man, this guy jumps out, and he just reaches over the back of his truck. He grabs a jack, he pulls it out, and I'm like, whoa, can I help you with that? This guy, right. He just grabs it. He coming on there. He's gonna put the jack under there. He's gonna help with this. Well, the jack that he had, for whatever reason, I can't remember if it wasn't heavy enough or it wasn't working. He's like, I'll be right back. I'm gonna go. I think I've got a jack down here at another place that I think will do the job. I'll be right back. So he throws that jack in the back of his truck, and he drives off. And so he drives off, and I get on the phone. I call Buddy back here, and I'm like, hey, man, I'm kind of stranded here. I've got a gentleman that's helping me out, but you stay close to that phone, okay? Because I don't know if he's going to go get his buddies, and they're fixing to take me somewhere else, or if this man's really got something to fix me up here. I think he's trying to help me. But so then he comes back with a jack that works, and with a little bit of effort, we finally get this tire off. We get the wheel off of the trailer. So I was like, man, is there a tire place around here handy or something? He said, there's a guy just down the road. He said, I've got to go there to pick up something myself. I think he was getting some propane or something. He said, He's got a business, and it was right on the highway. And he says, go down here. He may have a wheel. You can just get a wheel replacement for it and get you going. Okay, great. So get in the truck with him. And we're driving. And I'm telling you, man, this is going to sound hokey, and someone may think that I'm a little off right here, and that's fine. A lot of people know that I'm a little bit off.
Right.
But, right, you agreed too quickly with that, Jay. But, man, I'm not one of these people that I hear people all the time that are like, man, this happened, and I just know that this was God's will for my life, or this was a God. I hear people say that all the time, and I'm obviously, I recognize that God is all powerful, all knowing. He can control. He holds the universe in His hands. But I think so many times we're too quick to think things like that. Sometimes like, know what? No, it's not really God intervening in your life. This is just coincidence. Things happen, and then we deal with good and bad decisions. But there was just something about this that just kind of like, man, I've been talking to God all morning, and now this happened, and it happened right here, right at this place. And at that moment, this man's right here, and I'm kind of thinking, man, is this one of those things where God kind of put me in a situation? So I'm driving with this gentleman. We get talking. And I know I'm being long-winded here, but stay with me. I'll introduce my guest here in a minute. We'll get down to business.
He's here?
He's actually here.
Oh,
yeah.
my goodness.
Yeah. I know. I mean, I'll shut up. I'm getting there. But anyway, we driving, and I'm trying to get a feel. I'm like, well, maybe there's something I can help this guy with, So I get talking to him, and man, he's a friendly guy, and I'm thinking, well, I wonder if this guy knows the Lord. We get talking. I said, man, you got a church here? Yeah. He tells me all about his church. He tells me something about his business, the chicken houses and different things that he's involved in business-wise. Got a great thing going there. And then talk about his family, he's telling me about that. And I'm like, man, this is a happy man. Looks sound like he's got it all going on. I can't figure out anything I'm supposed to help this guy with. We get down. He takes me. This one place does not have a wheel, so he takes me all the way into town, miles and miles, go to a second place, put a new tire on here. He stays with me while they fix my tire. I've interrupted his busy work day to do all this. Now he stays with me. They fix my tire. Then he brings me back, and we get the tire on. We get everything fixed. And then the guy says, hey, man, you got a heck of a load on here. I think you need to put some more air in these tires. He said, pull over here to the side of this chicken house, and I've got an air compressor over here to put a little more air in these tires. And she's still staying with me, helping me. And then
I would have just let you go without air in your tires.
There's no doubt. There's no doubt. It's kind of like the book of Matthew. Someone, wants you to walk a mile with them. You walk 2. This guy's going like 10,
right.
And I'm just asking him for 1 mile. He's going like 10. Will not accept any money. I'm like, hey, man, let me pay you for this. Let me give you some money, something. No, will not accept anything. Airs up my tires, and then as I'm leaving, he's like, hey, man, if you have any trouble between here and home, here's my phone number. Give me a call. Plus, wow. I know some people that live out there. If you need some help, we'll get somebody out there to you. I mean, just amazing to me how much this guy has helped me. And the story here, like I said, having such a tough time driving down there, when this is over, I'm like thankful. I'm like, God, thank you for letting me have a blown tire. Now, I hate that I have put this man out so much that I've interrupted his day. But seeing this guy this guy's just unstoppable. He's battling, certain impairments, but there is nothing keeping him from doing whatever he wants to do. It was just amazing. And when I left, I had a totally different outlook on life. I had a totally different attitude, and I realized, I wasn't put in this position. If God put me in this position, it wasn't because this man needed any help. He was helping me. He was helping me, and it wasn't just fixing my tire. It was a lot more. I mean, it really changed my outlook on life. So
that's cool.
It was quite an experience. So anyway, my guest today is the gentleman that saved my butt on the side of the road, Brian Stoltze. Brian, man, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Let me ask you something, man. What were you thinking when you saw me broke down on the side of the road? What's going through your mind when you see an idiot like me that's just happened to be stranded? I mean, what possessed you to actually help me out that day?
I've been broke down so many times that you got to help. I mean, I don't want to leave somebody stranded on. I wouldn't want to be stranded on the side of the road, and I know how that is, not having stuff to get you fixed and go back going. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's you were definitely a saving grace that day. So, you know, man, ever since this happened, I've always wanted to get you on this podcast. And, you know, a lot of times I get guests on here that I'm good friends with, I've known for a long time. But with you, you know, I don't know you much more than that day that you helped me. So I'm really anxious to hear your story. I'm going to be learning about you as much as the people that are watching this, going through it. So I think it seems to me like you got a pretty good story to tell, or something I definitely want to know about. So, tell us about like your past. Where were you born and raised?
And I was born and raised right there on that place. I mean, a quarter of a mile from where you stopped at. Man, I had an excellent childhood. I mean, raised on that farm. I had grandparents that done the same thing that what we do for a living right now. And I don't know, I've always wanted to help people or whatever. I mean, that's just how I was raised.
Mm-hmm. What were your parents like, your mom and dad? I mean, you say they're good people, obviously.
Good, hardworking people.
Yeah.
Hardworking
Now, what kind of farm was it? We talking?
My grandpa, they had just 2 little broiler houses and, you know, a herd of cows there.
Uh-huh. I got you. What about brothers and sisters?
No brothers and sisters.
Only child.
Only child.
So what about like growing up? What was your interest when you were a kid? Were you into sports, or what were you into?
No, absolutely not. I had a squirrel dog and a 4-wheeler. that was pretty much how I was raised.
Sounds perfect, though.
Yeah.
And it was. I mean, I don't know. There's probably 300 acres there where I was raised, but that community is my whole family. I mean, my grandpa had 8 brothers and sisters, and I don't know, the whole farm, that whole community there, you know, that was pretty much all their land. And it wasn't like these kids now. I could run and go and do wherever. Mm-hmm. I mean, my mom and dad didn't know where. I've heard my dad say a lot of times he would find me. He said, wonder where I was at. He'd go outside and listen and hear my dogs treat, and then he would go to me for where my squirrel dogs were at.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. Yeah, just free, it wasn't like today, just free
Oh,
reign.
no,
yeah.
Absolutely not. And I'm, you know, I've got 3 children. I've got a stepdaughter and then 2 girls of my own, and they're all mine. But, you know, I'm just tickled that they're getting to grow up on the same place that I did.
Yeah, you know, I grew up in the middle of nowhere too, a much different country. I was more of a river rat than a hillbilly, like we different parts of the state. But, you know, I've always told my dad one time, I said, man, you know, you just gave me free reign. You didn't know where I was, similar to as you were growing up. And, you know, I was back here running around the river and doing all kinds of dangerous stuff. And I said, yeah, you know, like your grandkid, there's no way you would let them do some of that, you know. And he's like, well, you know, they're a lot cuter than you were, you know, for the most part. But he said, no, you know, when you were doing that, I knew that, you know, I was worried about you, but at the same time, I knew you weren't doing other things that would be worse,
right?
You know. Plus, it was just a different world too at the same time. But so, were you? Was church always something that's part of your life? Raised in church?
Not really. Not really. I was about 14 or 15 when I really, you know, when I started getting to go to church.
14 or 15. Mm-hmm. Now, so your parents were not really big into church?
No,
okay.
No.
How did you get started in 14, 15?
And just a family friend stopped, you know, invited us to take us. And then my mom, she started going with me too thereafter once we got started going back.
Mm-hmm. Now I know from what you told me that, you know, as far as your arm that you had an accident, but let's talk about life right before the accident. So how old were you when you had that?
I was 21.
21. Okay. So at age 21, just prior to the accident, what was your life like at that point? What were you doing?
Oh, I hate to say it, but I was pretty wild.
Got some wild times
some wild times.
What were
you? Did.
What kind of work were you doing?
Was doing electrical work for Arkansas Electric, working away from home. You know, it was pretty. You know the routine. You work with a bunch of guys and you go stow away from home, and it's not the best life for somebody.
Right. Right. So your relationship, you started going to church some at 14. So your relationship with the Lord at this point, probably, I'm guessing,
it was not where it needed to be at all.
Yeah. Did you feel like you were like you were saved? I mean, did you know
I felt like
Jesus?
I was saved, and I'll tell you why I feel like that, because, I mean, the whole time that I was doing wrong, you know, I still felt like I had that hook in my heart that was pulling me back to the Lord. And, I mean, even the crazy things that I done, man, I knew I wasn't doing right.
Yeah. Yeah. What about, were you dating anyone? Were you in kind of relationship?
Not really, not anything serious at all.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So at that point, what were you planning to do? What were your life goals and plans at 21 prior to the accident? Where'd you see yourself going, or were you looking that far ahead?
Man, I don't know. You know, I always wonder what would have happened if I hadn't gotten, you know, in the shape that I'm in. I'd probably still be doing that line of work right now, you know. But I guess that's not what the Lord had planned.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me about your accident. What happened?
Man, we were pulling new wire into a building high line, and we were pulling new wire in, and I was up on a pole in a bucket, and my mistake. I mean, I liked just a little bit, and the end of the wire, I had it hanging over in the bucket, which was a big no-no. I mean, and to this day, why, I have no idea why I done it. But I turned around in the bucket, and I hit my right elbow on that hot wire, and it just put 7,200 volts through my body.
Man. So, like, when this happened, were you at all conscious during the?
I'll tell you what. Whenever it happened, it knocked me out in that bucket, and I was it wasn't pain. I mean, I was at a peace where I felt like I had the choice. I mean, I felt like I had the choice if I wanted to live or die. I mean, it was like somebody asked me, you know, and I can remember laying there saying, I'm too young to die. I'm too young to die. Mm-hmm. And then, I mean, all of a sudden, it was just like the light came on. And they had done got me out of the bucket, and I was laying in the road waiting on an ambulance to get there.
Were you talking to him?
Yeah. And I can remember that. I'd say, man, just let me get up. I'll be all right. I can shake this off. But, you know, I can remember laying on my back and looking down, and we had those fire retardant pants on. And I can remember looking down and, like, seeing that burnt where that electricity come out. And, you know, and the whole time I was like, if you'd let me get up, I think I'll be okay. And they're like, no, you need to just stay where you're at. You know what? The ambulance got there, and I can remember this. They took my blood pressure, and it was like just, you know, it was normal.
Really?
Being through all of that trauma, but then they put me in the ambulance, and I'll never forget that. It was like being strapped on the back of a 1-ton truck on a flatbed going back down the interstate. Yeah. We were at Greenwood up by Fort Smith is where I was working at. And they run me back to Fort Smith and kind of did some emergency surgeries or whatever. And then they helicoptered me out of there to a burn center at Tulsa at Hillcrest Medical Center.
Okay, so obvious severe burns, all right side. Is the whole body on the right side? I'm guessing.
It went into my arm and it came out my right leg, and then I've got some pretty big burns on my left leg where it arced across.
Mm-hmm. So did they have to take your arm? They'd amputate at that point, or what?
Well, it was a few days in. You know, they done what they could to save it.
Yeah.
But then on my leg, it kind of took a little bit at a time. Yeah. I think I went through 12 surgeries in 14 days.
Okay. So you had to make the decision then. You were
right.
You know, to
and the doctor came in and he's like, you know, we can save your leg. They're talking about taking muscles out of my back and putting in my leg to try to reconstruct it or whatever. And he said, this is going to be a several year deal. Or he said, we can amputate this and I can have you on a prosthetic and walking in no time. Mm-hmm. And, you know, that was kind of and whenever they went ahead with it, I mean, gangrene had done starting to set up in it. So, I mean, there wasn't any way around it.
So you knew there was no choice.
No choice whatsoever.
Wow. So were you losing your right arm? Were you right-handed?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Right eye dominant too,
right,
I'm guessing.
Right. Okay. I've got a funny story on that too, though, when we get to it, but we'll go ahead right now. But shooting a 22, you know, your right arm right. And
Yeah.
a friend of mine, Brent Morgan from here in Searcy, he had permission to go to some mini-ponds down here over here. Des Arc, exactly where it was at. Well, we'd go over there, and I'm talking about shoot bricks of 22 shells at those ducks. We'd just drive around, and I mean, that's how I learned to shoot a gun again. It was like that.
Mm-hmm. For any of the game wardens listening, he just winked at me. That was not an admission of
No,
guilt.
they had a permit. They had a permit.
Okay,
a
all right.
Accreditation permit. I mean, it was illegal. It was legal what we were doing.
Okay, all right,
Yeah,
good deal.
you bet.
Good deal. I'm glad the tape of this won't be Exhibit A in the courtroom or anytime soon. So immediately after the accident, I mean, were you able to walk at all, or you had a process ahead of you?
Man, I'll tell you what, they wanted me to go to rehab and stuff when I got home and like stay. And I was like, man, I'm not. I can do it. I can do it. And I did a little physical therapy at Batesville once I got my prosthetic. But I mean, I went ahead and, you know, most of that's at home. Mm-hmm. And that happened November the 19th. And February the 14th, I went to Oaklawn to the racetrack and walked all day on a prosthetic. I mean, it didn't get me down long at all. Mm-hmm. But I was disappointed when I went and got that leg. In my mind, I was fixing to walk in there and put this thing on. And we're going home, and it's going to be.
All I need is a leg, man. Give it to me, yeah.
Everything, you know. It was kind of funny. The doctor wrote me a prescription for a leg, just like getting a bottle of antibiotics, you know. And Snell Prosthetics at Little Rock, they've been super, super good to work with. I mean, whatever I need, Frank and his crew down there, they've kept me going. Mm-hmm. And as I've got older, I don't have to work. They don't have to work on it near as much as what they did. But I'm telling you, when I was young, we was down there a lot because, I mean, I was breaking them and tearing them up and whatever, you know.
Mm-hmm. How high was your amputation?
It's just right above my knee.
It's above
my
knee.
Knee. Yep. And my arm is off in my shoulder, and Frank made me an arm to try to wear, but it was just so awkward, and I don't know, the stuff I'm into, it was going to get me killed. I'd have it dangled in a PTO shaft or something, and I never did get along with it.
Mm-hmm. So never the prosthetic arm, but using the prosthetic leg. You know, that's so interesting because I was wanting to know a lot about your rehab, you know, because I was a physical therapist before I just started doing the game calls full time. And so I was interested in some of the PT, but it sounded like you just thought, hey, man, this is slowing me down and I'm ready to go.
Right. I would say probably I done 6 weeks maybe at Batesville of, you know, go down there 2 or 3 times a week. And it was pretty simple, just up steps, whatever. And when we were in the hospital, I feel like I'm chasing rabbits here because I'm going back, but we were in the hospital out there, and I was talking about I'm ready to come home. And they said, you have to be able to get into a car before you know, in a car and out of a car and back in your wheelchair before you can come home. And I'm like, we're staying here because of that. You know, I said, where's a rig at? I feel like I can jump over one by now, you know, to get to go home. And somewhere in that hospital was huge out there, and they rolled me down to a car that's in the therapy center, you know, and shoot, I opened the door and bail in, bail out, and they'd give me the keys. I'd have drove it to Stone County.
You know, it's funny. A lot of the things you're answering a lot of the questions that I had about, you know, my next question was, you know, where is your mind? I mean, you know, all this hits you so suddenly. You're 21 years old, and it's like, bam, they've just taken my right arm. You know, I've lost the leg, and when I have to have prosthetic. So, you know, God, at the time when you know, kind of take a step back here, when you were in the hospital, I mean, what's going through your mind? I mean, how are you processing something like that? Were you angry about it? Did you question God? Why did this happen? And I mean, how'd you feel about it?
I never got, during that time, I never got down about it. And I had a group of friends I'm telling you, it's unreal. In that hospital room, the wall, the nurses and doctors from other floors would come up to my room because I'm telling you, hundreds of cards, people, back home, just friends. And them and God got me through that. Mm-hmm. And I mean, to this day, there's still people that come to see me. I had a group of friends come out to the hospital to see me in a van that they borrowed from one of them's mother. It broke down on the way home, and there was another group of them, and somewhere over around Fort Smith, Russellville, I may have that wrong, but it was somewhere that was a long ways from home, and they pull over, and I don't know, 7 or 8 of them end up in the back of a pickup, riding from Tulsa back home to get a trailer to go back to get the van. I mean, I had some hardcore friends that, I mean, really, really stood by my side through that.
Yeah, they were there for you.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And so, you told me at age 21, just prior to the accident, that you kind of living a wild life and didn't feel like you were really living for the Lord at that time. And you just said that, you're such wonderful friends and God kind of brought you through that. So was this one of those things that, I think I hear people talk about, going through a horrible trauma like what you went through. And, you hear stories where some people are angry at God for a while, and then some people, it just brings them closer to God. So how did you square things that way? What was that relationship? But you obviously had awesome friends, but how did that go? I mean, when you're talking to God after something like that happens, how did that go?
Man, I really don't. There was a ton of folks at home. I mean, my home church there was still, even though I'd fell out, them guys still had my back, and praying. And my preacher to this day, he'll still tell, the story about it. I said, man, don't go to the burn center out here in Tulsa. It'll cost you an arm and a leg to go out there,
Literally, you say, well, I've already paid that. Huh?
Right, I paid the dues, to go. But, man, I don't. It's just that's a hard question to answer.
Sure.
I mean, it's a hard one. I really don't know.
Yeah.
I really don't know.
Yeah. But I guess you felt like, like I said, I think sometimes when there's bitterness versus, it's kind of like are people bitter versus thankful to be alive, and it sounds to me like you had more of an attitude of thankful to be alive.
Yeah. Exactly, and I've always, and I know it's. God kept me alive for a reason. What that reason is just yet. I'm still 20-something years here. There's something going on there why He kept me alive, because, I shouldn't have been.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have been.
Yeah. I'm really impressed by the attitude that what you're talking about after going through something so horrific, and the attitude that you had, like, you're initially like, hey, I don't want to sit in this hospital. Get me home, get me out here, getting in and out of a car. Like, hey, we're not staying here for that. Everything that you've told me tells me a lot about where your focus was when this was over. And this is what I love. And one reason that I love it so much is what I did as a physical therapist, prior to this. I've been asked many times, how could I walk away from the job that I did, after years of training with physical therapy, to do something else? Well, number one, I love what I do now, and I still love physical therapy. I enjoy doing it. I keep my license up, and, there may be times I'll go back and see patients from time to time. I love that profession. One reason that I was able to walk away from it, there were two main reasons, things that really frustrated me with that job. One being all the paperwork. I got tired of having to explain to the insurance companies and Medicare and different people why I needed to treat someone, and them trying to dictate to me how long I could see or what I could do. I got so sick of that. And then the other thing was, in this country, unfortunately, the new American dream is now disability.
Right.
It used to be, the American dream, we're going to own a home, we're going to have a good job, going to raise a family, try to create a life better for our kids than the one we had. That's gone away now for so many. And it's just, man, they want disability. And for any little injury that they have, car accident, back pain, not that back pain can't be debilitating. It certainly can, and people can have valid disability from that. I'm not saying that. But any little injury I was seeing, people would not work to get better. And even if they did get better, they would not admit they were better because they're wanting disability. Well, here's a man like you. Good Lord, man, you lost your arm. Electrical accident took your arm, took your leg. Yet your focus is not, it sounds to me like, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't hear anything in your voice saying that ever entered your mind.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I'm with you, man. I don't know. The problem with that disability deal too is there's so many suckers of the system. I guess that's what you could say, that somebody that really needs it, and you got to jump through hoops to get it. I mean, They would starve somebody that needs it to death to give it to somebody that's just too lazy to go to work,
Mm-hmm. And here nobody would argue. Dude, I would not look down on you an ounce with what you went through if you just went disability and quit working. I mean, of course, man. And would not have any shame in that. Yet look at, to see your drive. And I think that's what just impressed me so much, and why I was thankful that I got to meet you that day. It was worth the breakdown, just because that to me is just, and I know you're a very humble man. You're not going to brag on yourself, but that type of attitude is just plain old inspiring. I mean, where did that come from in you? I mean, can you explain where that came from?
Man, I'm telling you, my parents, my grandparents, we were raised to work. It's not like, I was never around that. If you want to eat, you work, and that's the way that this country needs to get back to. Yeah. I'm all for helping somebody that needs help, but there's a difference in help, and there's a time that you've got to buck up and do it yourself. Mm-hmm. And like you said, I'm afraid that we're getting way away from that.
Mm-hmm. So another thing that pops into my mind, I try to put myself in your position the best I can, what you went through, trying to imagine how I would handle it. And I promise you, not nearly as well as you did. I know that. I'm not trying to flatter you. That's just a fact of the matter. But another thing here, you're a 21-year-old man, and this has happened. And how did you feel? You say you weren't really in a relationship prior to your accident. So I know now that you are a married man with a beautiful family. So how did you meet your wife? Or first of all, did you ever think that part of life might be over after the accident? Did you think you would struggle as far as meeting someone and having a relationship? Did you think about that? How'd that go?
No, not really. That never really crossed my mind,
mm-hmm.
because I felt like I knew that someday the one would come along,
Mm-hmm. All right, man. So, you've got a beautiful family. So tell me about your wife, first of all.
Oh, she's a good girl. Hardworking, the best mother. That's her number one job is them girls. And she has went above and beyond to take care of them, and me too. I guess I'm as much of a child to her as the kids are. 'Cause it takes her quite a bit to keep me going too. But no, she's a dandy. She's a dandy.
Yeah. Is she from Stone County?
No,
kind of that
she's
area?
from Rosebud.
Rosebud.
You bet.
Okay. So she's in the farm life and everything fits
her
just fine.
It fit her just fine. She was raised on a farm. They had land houses, five land houses, and her grandma and grandpa and mom and dad, that's what they done for a living. So, it's not nothing new to her, to what the struggles of the farm, so.
Yeah. Your girls, now, you have two girls.
Right.
And the ages are?
They're 7 and 9. And then Brandy has a girl that is 17.
Okay. So the younger girls, I've seen a lot of the stuff that you post on social media with the girls. Now, just precious girls, and I've got a daughter that's 8. We need to hook those girls up at some point. They'll be big buddies. But where my daughter tends to be a little bit more of a Disney princess, I see your girls out there on that farm. I mean, they don't back away from anything.
They don't. You know, I've had a lot of grown men work for me and help us in the chicken house and stuff, and I just soon have them 2 girls as I had a lot of grown men that's worked for me. I mean, they're no big. They know what's going on.
Yeah, they seem like daddy's girls
Yep,
too.
they are. But Brandy, we built the chicken houses, and the little one was 10 months old whenever we got our first flock of birds, and Brandy would walk chickens with that collie and a papoose. I mean, she don't ever remember there not being a farm, you know, or no chickens on the farm.
Mm-hmm. Just life. So your life now, obviously, you know, built into that farm, man, you know, you're doing some hard work. I think about you out there cutting hay a lot when we had such a hot summer. I thought about you a time or two out there working in that field. I know that's pretty tough. So you have cattle as well?
Yeah, we've got a cow-calf operation, and then occasionally we'll feed a set of feeder cattle out, just to finish some loads or do whatever, but mainly cow-calf.
Mm-hmm. So you have that, and then in the poultry business, how many chicken houses do you have? 4? They're big. I mean, It's a big operation you got there.
They're 43 feet wide and 600 feet long, about 103,000 square feet.
Mm-hmm. Enough to keep you busy, I'm sure.
We'll raise about 4 million pounds of chicken a year.
Wow. That is unbelievable. So what about other aspects of life right now? What are your interests? What are your hobbies? If you can find time to get away from work, what do you do?
Man, I don't know. I still like to hunt. You know, I find trouble with having time to, you know, morning and evening, that's pretty important times for our chores are going on then. And I have trouble sitting still, going and getting on a deer stand and sitting there, because your mind's always thinking, man, I need to be doing this or doing that or whatever. But I still enjoy that. And our church, I mean, we're there every time, anything going on with that, we try to be involved with that.
Mm-hmm. What kind of challenges do you have, you know, with hunting, other than the obvious, like shooting? Take me through shooting. You're shooting with one arm now, and you've got the other the eye dominant issue. How tough was that to get around, or anything special you had to do for that?
I have done a lot of shooting off a truck mirror. Lots of it.
Yeah, you gotta have a prop, right?
I guarantee you. I've sat in the truck a lot. I mean, I've hunted out of the truck a lot, and luckily they're at home. You know, I'm able to do that. It's not like having to go out on some public land or something like that. You know, the Lord blessed me with that. We've got plenty of places that I can hunt like that. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever gotten into any type of calling or anything like that? Which I know, hunting from a vehicle, you're probably not doing much of that, but I know you get out some. You ever get into the calling aspects of things much?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I still turkey hunt. You know, that's one of my favorite things to do. And you know, it kind of cracks me up to watch people get so serious about that. I mean, we've killed lots of turkeys that you could turn around and see the truck. If that sucker's gobbling and he's going to come, if he's ready, he's ready. I mean, we've killed lots of turkeys. You could see the truck from where we were set up at, you know.
So, I've seen a lot of the stuff that you post. You're very involved in your church and things like that now. You ever do any type of counseling with, not really, I mean, I know you're not a counselor, but do you ever meet people that have been through trauma maybe similar to what you have, or different types of physical challenges? Have you ever done anything like that?
No, not really. I feel like I should. You know, I've went and talked to some folks that's got hurt and stuff, you know, but I don't know. I probably should do more of that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I just didn't know if someone like if I knew someone that had recently dealt with a amputee or something like that. You know, I know another gentleman that's a good friend that has dealt with things like that. I didn't know if you'd had any personal someone saying, "Hey, man, I want you to talk to this
No,
guy,"
not
or anything
really.
like
Not
that?
really.
You
I
haven't done
like
that?
I said, I should. I really should be do some of that.
The you're talking about church being so important with you now. It's, I mean, I can tell, seeing what things that you post and just talking to you. I know your church is very important to you. Your faith is very important to you. And you got such an incredible story here. I was listening to a pastor the other day that was talking about, sharing, witnessing to other people that were not saved, people that did not know the Lord. And one of the things that he recommended, that's always something I've struggled with, is how do you do this?
Right.
How do you share that with someone? It's very difficult to me. There's no shame in me to do it, but I just don't know sometimes how to convey it to people. So someone's looking at you and, they see your life and they see this amazing attitude and the way that you take on everything. So, and you obviously your faith you're very strong in your faith. So, he said, if, the best way to share Jesus with someone is to basically tell them what he did for you, what he did in your life, that if you present that to him, that's kind of how he recommended starting. So, just briefly, man, I'm not trying to put you on the spot for a long, a real tough answer here, but if you're selling Jesus, which I always think that's funny saying selling Jesus, that's kind of like selling a parachute to a man on a crashing airplane, but if you're selling that aspect, what would you tell someone?
Man, I had a guy, I kind of gave my testimony one time, and I struggle with it. I mean, it's just hard for me to put those words together one time. And I got done, and he looked at me, and he said, your story's good, but he said, you need to just tell how good Jesus is. I mean, always, everything you do, you need to just tell them, Jesus is good. Jesus brought me through, and just keep telling people how good he is and what he can do for you,
Right. You, I saw a video of you recently. Well, before I get into that, now did you tell me you had COVID as well?
Yeah.
You battled COVID.
Yeah,
How rough was COVID?
It was rough, very rough.
Uh-huh.
A year ago right now, we were down with it.
Yeah. How, did you have to go to the hospital or anything
No
like that?
No hospital. We, luckily we got a hold of a doctor at Clinton that I feel like gave us what medicine we needed to get over it, but, no, it was a battle for sure getting over it.
What kind of medicine did you take?
Hydrochloroquine and the inhaler that they say don't work.
It would happen to work.
It happened to work.
Was that hydroxychloroquine? Is that that they put you on that?
You bet.
Yeah.
You bet.
You felt like that did the trick.
Something did. I
Yeah.
mean, we were down. That was before the Ivomec deal, but I would be all about that now.
Yeah.
I'd
Man had trouble breathing, he'll take whatever, won't
I'd
he?
have gave myself some if I'd have known then, Got on my medicine bag for the cows.
I saw another video the other day. I was doing a little research last night thinking about you coming on here, so I got on your Facebook page and kind of scrolled through that, stalking you a little bit on that Facebook page, and came across a video that slipped by me somehow. I didn't see it, where you were on this giant slingshot ride. Where were you at, in Branson?
We were in Branson, yeah.
And so that looked pretty fun, but it didn't look like it scared you a bit.
No,
Now, your friend that was with you, he looked like he was kind of like me, squirming a little bit before that thing shot off. So are you an adrenaline junkie like that? You enjoy stuff like that?
I guess so. I chuck wagon raced for about 13 years after I got hurt, even after I got hurt. I don't know. After I've been through what I've been through,
Not scary.
When the good Lord's, when it's your time to go home, you're going. I mean, it don't matter. You might as well do. If it's fun, you might as well get in.
You got a little bit of invincibility feeling now, don't you?
You bet.
I've
done some pretty crazy things.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Man, I think I'd be that guy. I was watching the video, and you were just laughing the whole time, and I could tell your buddy was a little more drawn up, although he was enjoying it. He was probably tougher than I would have been in that situation. I'd be that guy that would pass out. You ever see that, Jake, where they just, they shoot them up in the air? That would be me. I would just be limp, and then I'd wake up long enough just to scream, realizing I'm still in the air, and then I'd pass out again. That'd be me.
Have you seen that video where the guy's he's buckling the girl in, making sure her seatbelt's on or whatever, and he's standing there, and right about the time he says, let me get your seatbelt. It's not hooked. They let her go.
Oh,
This woman she's losing it. She's losing it. That's a good one.
I guarantee you she can't scream as loud as I can. I saw one time with bungee jumping that was like that, where they had another, like an extra rope. And when they would jump, like especially if they were going backward, they'd be like, oh, wait. And they would drop that.
That's cruel.
That one that's not connected to anything.
That should be illegal.
Oh, I'm telling you. I'd say that'd be my luck. I'd pull it on someone, they have a heart attack and die, so then I'd be in jail for manslaughter.
Right. You don't play with people like that.
Yeah.
I'd be upset once I finally got. First of all, I'm not doing any jumping off anything anyway. That's not me.
Well, plus, you come back up. I mean, you put me in that situation. Like I said, I'm going to scream like a little girl the whole way down. It's going to be everybody's going to be watching it and enjoying it on YouTube. Plus, when I get back up, I've crapped my pants. I'm going to have to change. There's all that going on. So I would be very upset if someone pulled that on me. So,
that's the difference in me and my wife. She's not I am in a whatever crazy stuff like that, and she's. That's probably the only thing we really don't have in common.
She would not be amused at something like that at all.
You couldn't melt and pour her on some of the things I do.
All right, man. One more quick question. Bucket list. What's on your bucket list? What's out there you still want to do?
Man, I'm going to kill either a big bull moose or a bull elk one. That's my bucket list right there.
Mm-hmm. Any immediate plans or?
I've been putting in for a draw. They have a handicap hunt out in New Mexico, and we've put in for it, but we hadn't drawn. I've got a friend that's an outfitter out there, and he said if we can get the tag, he can put me on. So
yeah,
that's what we're trying to get done.
You be sure and let me know if you get that tag,
right?
Because
we might get some video guy to go with us.
We might do that. I bet you could talk Jake into that. That would be a pretty cool shoot for sure.
I'm gonna have to exercise if we're doing hills before the hunt.
I'm friends with me and Bill Nixon, the vet there at home. We're friends, and we've been on several hunts out west. And I got to kill a bear in Idaho, probably about 2000, something like that. But that was a really neat trip. We drove out there and drove up to the snow line and met the outfitter, and then we snowmobiled over the mountain to hunt on the other side. And that was a pretty neat.
Idaho is beautiful.
Yes, it is.
I've not spent a lot of time out there, but I have been out there and seen some of those mountains. It's breathtaking out there.
That was the Bitterroot Mountains where we were at in there. It's something.
Yeah. I saw some near Snake River. I'm not exactly sure where I was, mountain-wise. We went up, traveled up in there and just outside of Boise there, and it's really something.
We were supposed to go this year up in the Canadian Rockies, but COVID got everything shut down. You were going to have to vaccinate and quarantine, and it just wasn't worth we couldn't, we were going to, a 10-day hunt was going to turn into a month by the time you went up there in quarantine, and then you had to quarantine before you come back.
It wasn't worth
that.
Yeah. COVID messed up a lot of hunting plans last year. I hope I don't know, everything firing back up now. Who knows what things are going to be. But it sounds like you don't mind traveling to do some hunting.
No, I don't. And when you get away from home, if you're out there, you can hunt. Where at home, I have trouble sitting still thinking about something else we need to go do.
Because what you need to do is right there next to you. Yeah, get your mind away from it. Well, man, I tell you something, man. It really, first of all, I appreciate, I owe you too, man. You saved me on the side of the road one day. You were kind enough to drive down here, take a good drive to come down here to Searcy to be on the podcast, and I really appreciate that. And, man, one thing I think that interested me so much in you and why I wanted to have you on here, I think as life goes on, we start out, we call them heroes when we're kids, and then I think it just kind of becomes, people that we admire as we get older. To me, when you're a kid, I know for me, my heroes were related to like sports. I idolized Magic Johnson growing up, and then, certain actors, musicians, things like that. We tend to do that when we're children. We get older, get to be a young adult. For me, and I think for most, then we look at people that are successful, and it's like, hey, man, this guy's, he runs this business, he started this, he's maybe he's gained some fame or notoriety, but he's been very successful in a certain area, and so we tend to put those people up on a pedestal. And then I think as you mature further in life, the thing that really strikes me and what the people that I love talking to and learning about are, when you get older, life's had enough time to kind of kick your butt a little bit. It's kind of beat you down a little bit. You get to a certain age, you've lost loved ones. You've been through hard times. You've been through some trials and tribulations and hopefully came out to the other side. And that's what really interests me at this stage in my life is that when I see people that to me are just unstoppable, people that have that attitude of not going to give up, they're not going to quit, and it is almost like they are unstoppable, and they just have that attitude that they're tough enough, they're going to push through anything. And man, that's what I saw in you that day. That's what and I know you're a humble guy, but man, I really admired that in you, and I appreciate that. And man, like I said, thanks for everything, and thanks for taking the time to come on the podcast, man.
You bet. Thank you.
Enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Come back and see us.
You bet, we will.